Everybody, welcome back to the channel, and we're going to be continuing on with chapter 11 of Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings, entitled Droplets. This is an important chapter. This is the last chapter in part 1 of the book, and we're going to come to a defining moment in Kaladin's life. The inscription at the very beginning, again, we've been reading through these, and I'm not offered any feedback on them. I think as we're reading through this, and I'm assuming we're reading through this for the first time. If not, then you get to smile because you understand what these mean. But this first inscription reads, 3 of 16 ruled, but now the broken one reigns. And broken one there is capitalized as if it's a name. 3 of 16 ruled, but now the broken one reigns. We return to Kaladin. Last time we left him, he had crumpled down on the ground in a tearful mourning situation. The final bridge run, he had seen death after death, and actually a young boy was killed beside him, and that was the essentially the final straw, where he crumpled down in tears and was weeping. Well, we return to him, and we're drawn to the idea that the bridgemen are only given one blanket, and they have a choice to make. Do they lay on it for comfort, or do they cover themselves for warmth? And that's very picturesque of the miserable life of these bridgemen. We find that some of them, in fact, choose neither one and actually just wrap their face around with a blanket, trying to escape from where they're at, even in a small way. Well, Kaladin, after the most destructive portion of the high storm, the lightning and the thunder and the horrible winds, has passed, Kaladin gets up and walks outside, standing in the rain. He notices that Gaz, the lieutenant, is recollecting some of his own personal spheres that he put out to recharge in the high storm. You'll remember that these spheres that glow very differences in wealth, but they recharge in the high storm. Gaz proceeded to yell at Kaladin for sneaking around, accusing him of trying to steal other people's spheres as they were recharging. Kaladin responded, though, with nothing more than just letting him know, "I'm going to the Honor Chasm." Well, Gaz stopped, looked at him, and told him to leave his sandals and his vest so that no one would have to go and collect it from the bottom of the chasm. He knew what that meant. Kaladin is going to jump off and end his life. Looking into the eyes of that young boy, that soldier had finally broken him. In the Honor Chasm, it was called that because it was the last place that a bridgeman could do the honorable thing. The last time he could make a decision for himself. Well, Kaladin approached the edge of the chasm and actually sat down, dangling his feet off of the edge, thinking back to his past, thinking of his father, thinking of Tien, thinking of all that he could have done, and actually makes the admission, even what his father told him those many years ago, that he should grow up to be a doctor, and said, "Yes, Father, I should have." His thoughts drifted from his family back to where he currently was. He climbed to his feet, feeling his father's judgment looming over him, and put his step out over the void. But right before he is throwing himself into the chasm, he hears a shout that sort of shakes him awake. The voice of Syl. "Kaladin!" she shouts out. He stops, takes a step back, and in her luminescent hand, she struggled to carry a single leaf of the plant blackbane. And you'll remember this is a very poisonous leaf that Kaladin was going to try to use originally to poison the slave owner who had put him in the wagon and brought him to the Shattered Plains. Kaladin almost chuckled that in her attempt to make him happy in this moment, she brought him one of the most deadly plants on Roshar. She was, of course, clueless to what she had interrupted, but asked him a very pointed question as they went back and forth. Kaladin was in despair. Nothing is worth it. Everything is hopeless. Everyone I've ever cared about has died. Well, she asks him this question. If everything is as hopeless as you think, and all the bridgemen that you're talking about are just going to die anyway, well then what harm can trying one more time actually bring about? What can you actually do that would make things worse? And something about that freedom that she had given him. Things are terrible, so there's nothing that you can do that would make it worse. You can only help the situation. Kaladin stood there, life and death literally right in front of him. And he thought once more of all of the people that he'd lost. He's slowly tightening his fist around the blackbane plant. But as he thought about face after face, life after life, his fist is growing more and more clenched, and his determination is growing stronger and stronger as these flashes kept, flashing in his brain, these memories. He kept saying to himself, one more time, one more time. And actually, the more he said it, the more certain he became. He turned as if to walk away from the chasm and truly began marching back into camp. And as he walked, as a way to almost certify that what he'd done was the choice of life, was the choice of a future, little life spren began popping up all around him, dodging raindrops. Well, as he walked back with certainty to the camp, Gaz was still out there, and he turned and noticed him. He shouted out to him, "Are you too cowardly to go through with it, your lordship?" He says, "Don't think that I'm about to give back your..." But before he's able to say anything, Kaladin launches at him. He begins beating him up, and he begins grabbing him, and he actually starts strangling Gaz by the neck. Gaz is panicked. He can't do anything. Kaladin flipped him to the ground and says, "Gaz, the man I was is dead. We are going to start new. Bridge 4 is mine." He allows Gaz to stand up, sputtering for air. And he says, "I want to stop paying off my slave debt. How much money do I earn a week?" He tells him, coughing, 2 clear marks a day is what you get. He said, "I'm starting to take my wage. And in order to let you know that I'm serious and to keep you from interfering in what I'm about to do, you get to keep 1 out of every 5 of my marks." Meaning every 2 days, every 3rd day, he gets to keep 1 of his marks. Kaladin hated wasting money on bribing Gaz, but he knew that he needed something to give himself a little bit of time for what he was about to do. Well, he walks back into Bridge 4, opens the door, and looks at the men lying on the ground, pathetic. He actually asks himself, have they all looked this miserable all along? Well, he walked over to the first man who's huddled on the ground, kneels down beside him, stretches out his hand, and asks him his name. Well, after a few rude remarks, he finally gets him to answer that his name is Teft. He says that my name's Kaladin, I'm your bridge leader, and get some sleep because we have a hard day tomorrow. Teft responds, every day is hard. They chuckle to themselves. And one by one, Kaladin begins moving down the line, forcing the men to tell him their name. He responds by introducing himself. And it was a small first step, but Kaladin knew, I want to begin restoring their humanity. And if they get to tell me, maybe even that last well-kept secret, who they are, if they tell me, I think it's the first step in moving forward and trying to save these men. And I wanted to read for you the end of the chapter here. Syl alighted on his leg as he sat, whispering the names of the men to himself, and she looked encouraged, bright, and happy. He didn't feel any of that. But as he wrapped himself in the responsibility that he had taken, he told himself one thing. He would find a way to protect them. And that's the end of part 1. What a journey we've been to. We've met a few characters. We've met Kaladin. We've met Shallan. We've met Yasna. And each of them has a journey that they're on. Here, Kaladin has made a decision. He walked away from certain death, and he's walked towards one more attempt to try to save the people around him. We know that this has not gone well in the past, but Syl convinced him to try one more time. And so we'll continue on with the story, but the end of part 1, Kaladin is recommitted to trying to save Bridge 4. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.